about Abraham between Lot and his friends, how many filthy, dirty jokes they must have. Oh, your Uncle Abraham up there, Lot. Yeah, thinks he's going to have a baby. Boy, that must have been funny. And yet it was that Abraham that didn't have the relationships, but he had the relationship that counted. He loved and obeyed God. He was the one that saved Lot in the end. And all Lot's relationships with all his pagan buddies couldn't do him a bit of good in the end. I encourage you to think about that. Runaway lust leads to complete irrationality. I honestly believe that Genesis 19 would give you one of the most irrational moments in all of Scripture. Just got struck blind, and we're still looking for the door. Wow. Those who step in to halt the process of self-destruction will be called... You can't see that word, can you? Anybody want to guess what that word is? Yeah, that's our favorite word, isn't it?
Judgmental.
Yeah, don't want to be called judgmental. I mean, anything but that. But listen to this. If you've never caught this before, I just want to spend a second here. Yeah, Lot says they surround the house, and they say, "Bring these guys out here. We want to molest them." So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind him, some courage there, I suppose, and said, "Please, my brother, do not do so wickedly." Now think how appealing he is. "See now, I have two daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof." And they said, "Stand back." So they got the threat going, and now they're going to reason why their threat is legit. Then they said, these wicked men, "This one came in to stay here," speaking Lot, "and he keeps acting as a..." Anybody know what the next word is?
Judge.
That would be a judge. Now think about that, please. We don't want to be called judgmental, do we? Guess what? You speak up for what's right. I don't care how nice you are. You'll be called judgmental. So you might as well not trade the truth for being loved by everybody. I mean, it sounds like Lot was still like, we can, bless his heart, we can still, guys, we can talk. We're friends. We know each other. It's good. Please, guys. Poor Lot. He thinks he can handle this burning lust with an appeal to logic and reason. Are you kidding me? So Lot's going to go out there and be, reasonable, be a nice guy, go back on his past relationships. We're all good here, guys. Please don't do this. He says, please. He offers up his daughters. They didn't care. Wow, what a guy. And their response is judgmental. Can we stop running away from that pejorative? And can we start understanding that the only way we won't be called judgmental is if we don't say anything at all? Can we please get there? And if you begin to doubt it, I encourage you to go back to Lot's experience in Genesis 19. He couldn't have been a nicer guy. He couldn't have been more appealing. He couldn't have been less, dare I say it, the man could have been less judgmental. Could he? But he's still judgmental. Judges 19. This passage is not known as well. Genesis or Judges 17 through 21. We don't really have a whole lot of time to talk about it. I really encourage you to read through this passage. Genesis 17 through 12, or Judges 17 through 21. There's a lot going on here. One of the things that I really love about this passage, if you can love this passage, and you must love all the scriptures, is that we tend to read Judges kind of like this. The people start out good. God sends them a deliverer, a Gideon, or a Barak, or even a Samson, something like that. And then they come back to God for a while, and then they leave God again, worship idols, and then God sends them another deliverer. And we tend to think that it didn't make that much difference. Okay, yeah, one year, here they're worshiping God, and then later on, they begin to worship Baal, but But Dad still came home from work, and they had a statue of Baal in the little house, but everything was good, and it's okay. So we're worshiping God here, we're worshiping Baal, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. Well, Judges 17 through 21 will deliver you from that delusion. And what the writer of the book of Judges did, some people think it was Samuel. What he did was he gave us 5 chapters of what it was like when things went south and they were worshiping idols. And it is horrible. It's death, destruction everywhere. Nobody's safe. And if you read Judges 19, it's actually kind of a parallel of what happened in Genesis 19 with Lot. My first point here, and we don't have time to look at it, but societal breakdown begins ecclesiastically. It starts out in Genesis, or in Judges 17, with a man from the tribe of Dan who makes an idol, and he consecrates himself a priest. And his mother says, "Way to go, son. Thank the Lord for you." Okay, so we start out with an idol. We start out with a man from the tribe of Dan making himself a priest. Now, could anyone from the tribe of Dan make themselves a priest? Answer, no. That was a Levitical job. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's very intriguing to me that these 5 horrible chapters start out with the breakdown of the priesthood and the church, if you will, an ecclesiastical breakdown. It doesn't start at the top. It doesn't start with the king. It starts with the church. Secondly, when those charged with dispensing the word of life quit their job, the only word left is the word of death. You see what happens a little bit later. It starts out in Judges 19 or 17 with a man from the tribe of Dan who consecrates himself a priest, and he makes himself a little silver idol. Next thing we know, we find out about a Levite and his concubine. Now this Levite and his concubine were almost, it's just a horrible story. But he's a Levite. And he gets himself a concubine. She leaves him, goes back home, and is sleeping around for about 4 months, and he decides it's time to go and get her and bring her on home. Now what this Levite is doing, just wandering around the land of Israel and Judah, and Benjamin, ultimately, I don't know. But he sure wasn't teaching anybody the law of God like he was supposed to be doing. You see how things are breaking down ecclesiastically here. Well, he gets his concubine. On the way back, he stops over the land of Benjamin, and the same thing happens eventually. Vile men surround the house, and they want him to come out so they can abuse him. He has a better plan. He says, not me, but I got a concubine. How about that? So the concubine that he went all the way back to get, he tosses them out the door, tosses her out the door to them. They abuse her all night, and she dies. He wakes up the next morning. She has crawled back to the door frame, crawled back to the door after being abused all night. Must have been horrible. And he comes out the door and says, "Get up, we gotta go, it's time to go." She's dead. Now he gets all outraged, and he cuts her up into 12 pieces, and he says, spread this all around the tribes of Israel. This is really terrible what's happened. We gotta do something about this. Well, number 3, when we abandon the Word of God, our ability to discern is hampered. I've been told that word hampered is quite weak, and that is correct. Maybe our ability to discern is quite destroyed, actually. This Levite, he's supposed to be promoting the scriptures and teaching them. He's abandoned them. Did he even have a twang of conscience when he tossed his concubine out to these people? Was he thinking a little bit? Doesn't look like it. He thought about it later. And that's number 4. Wickedness increases judgmentalism. Do you know what the real source of judgmentalism is? It is an abandonment of the scriptures. That's the real source. You won't see anything judgmental like you see it when people abandon the scriptures. Then everybody's judging everybody's motives all the time. And that's what happened in this case. Think about this Levite. He tosses his concubine out the door to these vile people. They abuse her all night. And guess who's mad now? Oh, man. Oh, that's really terrible what these guys did. Look how well they abused her all night. Hello? Who tossed her out the door to begin with? Apparently, he's not even able to discern to that degree. But now he's all judgmental about these wicked Benjamites that he cooperated with. When we abandon God's standard, His law, and His word, expect everybody to be judgmental about everything. And get all outraged at the bad things that happen. But somehow, the problem is, and this is just such a terrible thing, because when we abandon the Scriptures, we're still able to judge our neighbor. But without the Scriptures, we are incapable of judging ourselves. What a horrible situation. And fifthly, you can't see it there, but the Benjamites were dying already. The Benjamites wound up defending the ones that did it, and they fought Israel to a standstill for the next couple of days. Finally, the Israelites won, and they got the job done. They wound up almost wiping out the tribe of Benjamin, almost entirely. They made a vow that they wouldn't give any of their wives to the Benjamites. The 600 Benjamites that lived, they'd almost wiped out the whole tribe, had to basically go out and kidnap women to make for themselves wives so they could keep the tribe going. That sounds really pretty bad. The rest of the Israelites, they attacked the tribe. But think about it. How long can a society live that's given over to homosexuality? I mean, come on. We don't have to have a birds and the bees session to figure that one out, do we? If everybody's a homosexual, this is your last generation. They're already dying. Same with Sodom and Gomorrah. How much longer do you think Sodom and Gomorrah could have lasted? The way they were going. Look at our society. Think about our society. We've abused this godly gift of sex. And we are now obsessed with two things: abortion and homosexuality. How long do you think a society that's obsessed with those two items can survive? Think about it. When you're old and need to be taken care of, you better hope there's some young people around, because if you're old and need to be taken care of, you better hope that not everybody else is as old as you are. They were dying already. And finally, one final note. We can never forget that you cannot violate without violence. That is, those who violate God's laws regarding the gift of sex cannot help but commit violence. Think about it. God gave us this gift in order to support and encourage life. Do we think that we can violate His laws without violence to His people? We violate this gift, and somewhere down the line, violence is going to happen to somebody somewhere. We can't mess with His laws, and we can't mess with His gifts without doing violence to His favorite creation, which is people, by the way. God's very concerned with how you treat His name and His person, and also His favorite creation, which is people. That's why He said, the most important commandment, Christ says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind. The second one's like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. We cannot violate His laws. Well, I thank you for your kind attention here tonight. Who has the first question? Yes? No?
I'd like to